David, on the other hand, is described in 1 Samuel 16 as a brave warrior, skilled musician, and speaks well. Whom would you like better, Saul or David? Both of them are handsome, okay? But David had more inner qualities, right? Saul's description are purely external, tall and handsome, period. But David has inner qualities. He's a brave warrior. Why do you think David became a brave warrior? Remember what was his work in the family? He was a shepherd. And by the way, in ancient Israel, shepherding was a despised profession. People looked down on shepherds because it's a meaningless life. You take care of animals. You have to give up your life to protect them from the bear or the lion, and you get only very small pay. And you're risking your life for the sheep. Okay? It was a despised profession. People looked down on shepherds. In fact, in ancient Israel, when you enter into the gates of Jerusalem, this is what is called the sheep gate. That is where the shepherds bring in the sheep. Shepherds are not allowed to enter any other gate except the sheep gate. Okay? Because they are not VIPs. Okay? So shepherding was despised. And David, being a shepherd, of course, during those idle times in the field during the day, when there's not much to do, okay, what would he do? He developed a skill with a musical instrument, a lyre. And he started writing music during those idle moments in the fields of Bethlehem. And he developed a songwriting ability and developed a lot of his musical abilities, including the skill on the lyre. Okay? And when he was faced by threats against the sheep, David mentioned to King Saul that he faced a lion and a bear who were threatening the sheep. I will take the lion by the hair, and I will kill it and take the sheep off its mouth. Wow. Do you have the courage to face a lion face to face, grab it by the hair, you know, the mane of the lion? They will grab the hair face on and kill it, and then take the sheep from its mouth. Would you like to try that? That takes a lot of guts, right? That's why he's known as a brave warrior, a skillful musician, because he developed his musical abilities worshiping God in the fields of Bethlehem in his idle times, and most of all speaks well. Where do you think David developed his eloquence? Writing. So have you ever read the book of Psalms? How many have read the book of Psalms? I'm sure you did. Do you see how the words are written? Do you think these Psalms were written by a man of eloquence? A man who is very good in words. Right? How many enjoy the book of Psalms? I mean, the writer knows how to use words. Amen? A very eloquent man. But you see, he developed all of these skills as a shepherd out of love for God. As he worshiped God in the fields of Bethlehem, the more he wanted to excel in whatever gift God has given him. So he began to excel in the use of the lyre, in writing music, and also in being able to compose beautiful poetry to God. He did it because he loved God. Do you understand this, okay? Now, both of them came from families that took care of animals. Isn't that interesting? Saul came from a family that took care of donkeys. Can you say donkey? Okay. What comes into mind when you think donkey? What characteristic? Stubborn, okay? The word for donkey in Hebrew is chamor, okay? If you go today to the Holy Land and you see, two people, or maybe a father, getting angry with his son because he's being stubborn, he will hear the words, chamor! That means you're a donkey. You're stubborn, okay? And so, donkey are stubborn animals. You know why they're stubborn? They will not always move when you want them to move, and they will never go always where you want to go. I know that by experience because I rode a donkey when we were at the Holy Land tour. We were in Petra. How many of you been to Petra? Okay. Petra, you know, you have to walk more than 25 kilometers just to see all these rocky formations on the cliffs. 25 kilometers. And by the time we got there, I think my legs were already really hurting bad. I said, no way I'm going to go walk back another 25 kilometers. Okay? And so they had other options. You have a camel that's worth $50, quite expensive. And you have a donkey that's cheaper. So I said to my wife, you ride the camel, I'll ride the donkey. I cannot afford $100. Just $50, okay? So my wife was happy about that. First time she could ride the camel, and you know the legs of a camel has very long. So one stride like that, that's already a big distance, right? Very long legs. So when it walks, one stride is already a big distance, right? Look at the donkey's legs. So who do you think is gonna get to the goal first? The camel, right? So I said, no, I'm going to race with my wife. I forgot I was riding a donkey. And so I was given some instructions by the one in charge and said, okay, this is what you do. Okay, I did that. I said, didn't move. Try it again. Didn't move. I said, there's a problem. And then he hit him hard and it moved. Okay, now I know. Okay, and so we're walking. And then I tried hitting it hard. And then the donkey ran. I almost fell. I said, holding like this. And finally it stopped. And my wife's already so many meters away, okay? And so I tried again. Won't move again. Started to walk again. But it took a long time before I arrived at the place. So now I understand. Now I know donkeys by experience. Okay? Stubborn, okay? And David was taking care of what animals? Sheep. What's the difference between donkeys and sheep? Sheep, they're dumb, but they need somebody to lead them, right? Or else they will get lost. And the sheep, what does the sheep do when the shepherd has won the affection of the sheep? And then the shepherd begins to lead them into the field, the sheep just follows. You don't have to push. Like a donkey, you don't have to hit them with a stick like a donkey. They just follow you. These two kinds of professions actually foreshadowed different types of leadership. Okay? So we'll take a look at that. Saul, the donkey driver, leadership by inducement drives or pulls people. And that's exactly what his leadership style was. When he became a king, he would love to please his soldiers. He would always give in to what the soldier wants just for them to follow him. He was always trying to please his army to the point that he was disobeying God's clear commands because he was trying to please his army and give in to their requests and demands. That's why he could not obey God, because he wanted to please people, because his leadership is by pushing and pulling. Okay, how many of you here are pastors? Can you raise your hands, please? Okay. How many of you are leaders in your organization besides the church? Okay. Have you often struggled in trying to motivate your people to do what they have to do and do it well? Right? Sometimes you have to push or to pull. Come on, perform. And we always say, they lack commitment. And we always say, they lack commitment. We're always talking about commitment and still they're not committed. Isn't that frustrating? You have to keep pushing or pulling. That's a very tiring style of leadership. That was Saul's leadership. He always depended on the opinion of the army, and he will have to please them so they will follow him, or else they won't. Okay? But David was different. His leadership was by influence. Like a shepherd, David didn't have to push and pull the people from following him. After defeating Goliath, the people loved David. They saw his bravery, his courage, his faith in God. They saw how he defeated their enemies. And now all the people are following David without even David telling them to follow. All Israel started to follow David. Did he have to pull and to push to motivate people? No. His character, His model inspired the people. His love for God and love for Israel, by becoming the champion against Goliath, he cared not only of God, he also cared about the people. Because nobody was taking the challenge of Goliath. And he said, who is this man? Who is this Philistine? And because he became the champion for the people, and in the name of Yahweh, the people loved to follow him. No more pushing or pulling. What we need to develop is inspirational leadership. Leadership that inspires people. We need to model what we preach. We need to model the principles of excellence in our company. They need to see that in the leader or in the pastor, because when they see how the pastors love his family, how he leads his family, how he serves God with love and humility, when they see their pastor being criticized, he remains calm and kind to the people. That inspires the people, right? To follow him. That's shepherd leadership. Vis-a-vis donkey leadership. Okay? So how many would like to learn how to lead like a shepherd? Okay. When you're a donkey leader, you have to focus on how to motivate people, right? When you're a shepherd leader, you focus on developing yourself, developing your spirituality, your character, your attitude, developing genuine love for the people, that you know that when they're in need, you're always there for them. You begin to develop those qualities that reflect Christ in your life. And I'll tell you, just say one word, the people will follow you. Because you are a shepherd leader. You're inspiring them by your model. You need to be so full of God in your life, so full of the spirit of excellence, and they see it in your life, that will inspire them to follow you. That's shepherd leadership. That's David. That's David's leadership. You understand that? Okay? It's a leadership that draws and inspires people rather than, induces people to follow you by some external motivator. Okay? Both were suppressed in their families. This is where we're getting into identity. But each developed a different sense of identity. Do you know that both of them were looked down in their families? Okay? Let's take a look at Saul. Saul looked small in his own eyes, according to Samuel. In 1 15:7 said, you were once small in your eyes. Now, can you imagine the tallest man in Israel looks at himself as small? Yes, okay? And nothing is said about if he had brothers. Nothing is said about that. He seems to be the only one. And listen to this. How can Saul, who was very handsome, a tall guy, when you're tall, it gives you some confidence over others, right? The height has advantage because it gives you command over people, right? But when you look down on yourself, even if you're tall, you're always like this because you see yourself as small. Saul saw himself as small. Where do you think that came from? Huh? Okay. You know what happened? When Saul met Samuel, here's the story. The story of Saul started with them losing donkeys. Donkeys were their business. His father said, Saul, we lost some donkeys. Please go and look for them. And so Saul goes out with his servant and looks for the donkeys. After a long time of looking, they could not find the donkeys. And then Saul said to his servant, we'd better go back before my father stops worrying about the donkeys and start worrying about me. According to the Word of God, he was around 30 years old when his story started. Okay? A man of 30 years old, and his father is still worrying about him. What does that tell you? He said, we better go home because my dad may stop worrying about the donkeys and start worrying about me. And later on, Samuel, whom he will meet later on, also told him, your dad is worrying about you, and he's saying to himself, what can I do about my son? He was tall, he was handsome, yet his father did not trust him enough. And when they were looking for the donkeys, the servant said, Saul, we have traveled so far. There's a prophet nearby. Maybe we can go to him and we'll ask him and show us where the donkeys are. So we won't go back without achieving our mission. Okay? And Saul was willing, but the problem is they had no money. In those times, you have to give a love offering to a prophet. And so the servant said, well, Saul, I have money, so we can go to the seer. Listen to this. The son had no money, but the servant had money. What does that tell you? Why would the father let his son look for lost donkeys without giving him any money? But the servant had money. What is that telling you? Huh? Does the father trust his son? Lastly, when Saul was finally about to be introduced by Samuel to Israel as their first king, it was his inauguration. You know, when they started to prepare the people, Saul was not to be found. And so Samuel said, the prophet, Lord, where is Saul? And you know what God said? He's hiding among the baggages. He's hiding among the baggages. Can you imagine a man who is so tall, successfully hiding among baggages? Can you imagine what was his position? He was the tallest man, and he was hiding among the baggages of the people. How can a tall guy successfully hide himself among baggages? Right? What would be his position? He would be lying down. He was hiding at the moment of his glory when he would be introduced by the prophet to the people as the first anointed king of Israel. He was hiding among the baggages. He was looking at himself as so small. Right? Now let me ask you, where do you think all of that came from? Why did he suffer from a low view of himself even though he was tall and handsome? Others were looking up to him, but he looked down on himself. Do you know why? His father had a name to protect, a man of reputation. You know what that means? Many times when we have a name to protect, we can be very hard on our children because we don't want them to embarrass us before the people. You know, son, you have to have 100 in your grades, okay? I will not accept anything lower than 99. Son, you have to win this competition because if you don't win, you'll embarrass our family. You always have to have high grades. You always have to be the best. Always win every competition because you bring, give us a name. When a father has a reputation to protect, there will always be a tendency to be suppressive of the children. Keep them in line, lest they embarrass you, right? You'll be very protective and very controlling over your children. How many of you experienced that when you were still a child? You grew up with a family where your father was so controlling or your mother was very controlling because he doesn't want you to mess up. You better have the high grades all the time because your parents have a name to maintain. How do you experience that? Okay. Thank you for those aunties, guys. Okay. A lot of us in the Philippines experience that. Okay? That's why all we hear are negatives. You're always wrong. You just don't measure up. You always mess up. You're always a failure. Every time you fail, your parents take notice of that, magnify it beyond proportion. But when you do something good, they don't even see it. How many of you have experienced that? When you do something good, parents don't notice it. When you do something wrong, wow, they're really hard on you. Come on. How many of you experienced that? Okay, now listen to this. That is a suppressive home. When there's a name to be protected, sometimes parents can be very controlling over the children. And guess what's the experience of Saul? With a father who had a reputation in the tribe to protect. Okay? So he did not trust his son enough. And so because the father never made the son feel that he can be trusted, the son developed a low view of himself. That even he had all the physical characteristics that will be looked up by people, He looked down on himself because his father cannot trust him. Are you still here? And if you've gone through that experience where you're more cursed, condemned in your family than you were affirmed or commended for anything, I won't be surprised if you look down on yourself. You tend to be quickly condemning yourself. When you commit a mistake, you begin to hate yourself. When you commit a failure, you imagine killing yourself. Or even cursing yourself when you make mistakes. Again, do you do that? Do you tend to hate yourself so much when you make mistakes and you commit failures? Do you tend to condemn yourself so much? If you do that, you're the product of a suppressive home. Because everything wrong is the focus. Everything that's right sometimes is not even noticed. Because the parents want to maintain a reputation. You understand that? That's Saul. And because of that, he grew up trying hard to please his dad. But his dad would never be pleased enough to trust him. He's always forever trying to please his dad. But just could not. He never measures up. That's why Samuel said, you know, your dad right now is worrying about you and is saying, what shall I do with my son? I mean, look at the father saying those words about his son. Are you still here? When you grow up in that context, you develop a damaged sense of identity. And that will make you insecure. You'll always be insecure. You'll always be trying to please people, and you feel you're never pleasing people. That's why you hate yourself, you condemn yourself, because you're always ever trying to please your dad. But you can't, because the dad's never pleased anyway. That's why he was so damaged. So damaged. Are you still here? Okay. But David was different. David actually had experienced more suppression in his family than Saul ever had. In the story of David, beginning in 1 Samuel 16, we find, Samuel going to the house of Jesse, the father of David, because God instructed him to anoint the next king of Israel after God rejected Saul. And so he said, present your sons to me. What did Jesse did? He presented all his sons except the youngest. Because all the other sons were tall. Samuel was so used to the tallness of Saul, the first king, that he served as a prophet. And when he saw the eldest son of Jesse present before him, Eliab, tall. And Samuel, Lord, he looks like Saul, tall. He must be the one. But God spoke to him, no, I have rejected him. Man does not look at the outside appearance, but looks at the heart. I have rejected him. And then comes Shammah, etc., all the sons, and all of them were tall, and God said, no, until nobody's left. And so Samuel was surprised. Jesse, do you have yet another son? I'm sure I came to the right address. But none of the sons were chosen by the Lord. But the Lord said, I'm supposed to anoint one of your sons. Do you have yet another son? Yes, my youngest. I'm sorry, he's taking care of the sheep. That's why I cannot tell him to come here. Okay, call David. David was not tall, he was short. He was short, but he had a high view of himself because he always saw God. Saul was tall, but always had a low view of himself because he always saw his dad. Are you still here? And so what happened? He called David. Obviously, David was despised by his own father. He didn't even consider him one of his sons to be presented to Samuel, right? And later on, when David was asked by his father to visit them in the battlefield when Goliath was challenging Israel, Eliab, the eldest son, saw David, what are you doing here? You're so conceited. You only came here to watch the battle, to show how embarrassing it is because we're all running away from this Goliath. You're so conceited. You've come here to watch the battle, and why have you left those few sheep in the wilderness? Eliab accused him of being careless. You left the few, that means you're so irresponsible, we only have a few left. Those are all lies. David never forsook the sheep. He was willing to kill the bear and the lion just to protect the sheep. That was a lie of the eldest son. He said, you're so conceited. Have you experienced being misjudged by your siblings? A lot, okay? David was despised even by his brothers. And then comes to King Saul, I will fight this Philistine. And so looked at him from head to toe and said, no way. You're just a youth and he's a professional killer. No way you can fight against this man. Sorry, David, you might be brave, but you're reckless. David said, my Lord, listen to me. Whenever the lion or the bear comes to take the sheep, I take the lion by the hair and kill it with my own hands. And I take the sheep from its mouth. The Lord who has delivered me from the paw of the bear and the mouth of the lion will deliver me from this Philistine. Let me go and kill him. Saul despised him. He was impressed. So he put his own armor. It was too big for David because he was short. The king's armor, Saul, was very tall. It wouldn't fit him. I'm sure his head disappeared in the armor. Okay. He said, no, I don't need this. You're going to fight this professional killer without a professional armor? No, I don't need this. Let me fight him my way. And so he goes to the battlefield, approaches Goliath with a shepherd's staff and a sling. Okay? And so now it's the time for Goliath to despise David. Despised by his father, by his brothers, by Saul, and now by Goliath. You know what Goliath said? Am I a dog that you come to me with sticks? Come, and I'll give your body to be food to the birds of the air. And he started cursing David by his gods. He despised David. But you know what David said, right? You come to me with sword and spear and javelin. But I come to you in the name of Yahweh Sabaoth, whose armies you have defied this day. And let me tell you, the Lord our God shall deliver you into my hand this day, and I will cut off your head, and I will give your body and the body of the Philistine army to the birds of the air, that the nations may know that there is God in Israel. This short guy talking big. While the tall Goliath was talking down on him. Are you still here? Here's the catch. Listen to this. When Saul saw Goliath, he looked at himself and he decided he was too small. He was the tallest in Israel. When David came to the battlefield and saw Goliath, he looked at God and decided that Goliath was too small. Did you get that?